I am super excited to have a friend here. Her name is Lauren Snodgrass, and she is with Canopy NWA, and she has graciously taken some time away to talk about not just the Compassion Project, but more about what she does and maybe to bring a human element to this Compassion Project. First of all, Lauren, thank you. Thank you for being here. I know you are busy.
Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I love doing this. I love talking about Canopy, about what I get to do, and about our clients. So this is a pleasure.
I think we have a tendency right now in our nation to lean into issues and forget the individual. And there's also some confusion even about what it means to wrap around a refugee family, what that looks like, what that means. Could you share maybe just the human element of this with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, the refugee families that we work with are coming through the United Nations, the State Department, and they literally are the absolute most vulnerable people in the world. They have been identified as that through the UN. And so only families or individuals who are able to be resettled are literally basically tagged like are not able to stay in their host country living in this refugee camp because their life is in danger, or they are going to be sold into slavery, or whatever it may be. They literally are the most vulnerable people.
Yeah.
So that's who we work with. So they come through the State Department. There's all this vetting that happens, and we actually don't get to choose who actually comes here to Northwest Arkansas. That's already chosen for us, and they arrive, and we literally get to welcome them with a big group at the airport. And honestly, every family that comes is matched with a co-sponsor team, a mentor team that's going to walk with them for at least 6 months. And those are typically faith communities and typically churches, because this ministry, churches, this is what we were made and created to do. We were made and created to welcome people, to welcome others into our space, into our homes, into our lives, and show them the love of Christ. So most of our co-sponsors, mentors, volunteers are from the faith community. And when they arrive, our job is basically, we've got literally like 90 days, maybe sometimes 180 days to connect them with all the services that they would need to begin a new life here in Northwest Arkansas. And that's tough because our families are coming from some of the most horrific refugee camps in the world. We are literally receiving, like I said, the most vulnerable people. So a lot of them have never experienced running water. Or proper toilets, so there's a lot of learning that goes into that. But we have an awesome community that has wrapped around our families and has just helped them learn so much. And really what I'm finding in this work is that while we're teaching a lot, they are teaching me and they are teaching our community so much.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I've learned through this is that where there's great suffering, there is great joy. And we're working with people who have experienced just some unfathomable situations.
Yeah.
Seen loved ones killed, and they have been hunted down. And they have experienced such suffering, and they are coming out of that and beginning to experience such joy. And so it's like that childlike faith. I begin to see the world through their eyes and experience the world through their eyes. And it's amazing. It's amazing to see what God is doing and how God is restoring people, restoring their lives, restoring their health, and restoring their families and bringing great joy to them once again.
And that's faith changing. I mean, that's faith changing. That takes us outside of our little bubble of what we think the world looks like, to step alongside somebody else who can show us a very different picture of what suffering looks like, but also what joy looks like in that same. Would you be willing to share a story of a family with us?
Absolutely. The story that comes to mind, the family that comes to mind is a family of 8. The father name is Abwe, and his wife's name is Sakitu. And they came to us last summer from a camp in Tanzania, the Nyarugusu camp, actually. And you can look that up. You can see pictures of it. It literally is one of the worst camps in the world. So Abwe had actually been in that camp for 22 years. He fled from the Democratic Republic of Congo when his village was attacked by rebels. And he ended up in Tanzania after months of traveling on foot, on boat, by boat, ended up in this camp and then spent 22 years there. But at some point, the United Nations tagged his family as extremely vulnerable. They had some significant medical needs in their family, just could not be treated in the camp. They were no danger to anybody. The medical needs were no danger to anybody in the United States. And we knew a little bit about this. We get very little information, medical records on families before they arrived. So we knew there was something that was going to need to be treated. It was actually sickle cell anemia, which is very treatable here in the United States. It's actually one of the first things that newborns are screened for. And obviously in the refugee camp, that's not going on. So we knew that at least one of his children had sickle cell anemia. So they arrived. And within the first week of them arriving here, Abwe and his daughter Mwavita found themselves in the back of an ambulance and they were being transported down to Little Rock, the children's hospital down to Little Rock, because she was so sick. His daughter was so sick. So can you imagine, you had just arrived in the United States. You actually don't speak English, French, you speak Swahili. And all of a sudden, your daughter is sick. She's literally dying at this point. Yeah. And you're being put into an ambulance and you're going to this place called Little Rock and you know absolutely nobody. Like, no one there. And we couldn't, and unfortunately, we couldn't send a person down to Little Rock with him because we're such a small staff. And so Abwe Mwavita went down to the hospital in Little Rock, and we realized, okay, this is really serious. She got some treatment, came back up to Northwest Arkansas, and within another week, she was back in the ER, same issue. And then she was actually transported to Northwest Arkansas Children's Hospital here, the new Children's Hospital here, which is amazing. Yeah. And and at this point, she was there to stay. She needed a ton of tests. They needed to figure out why she keeps relapsing. And I happened to be at the hospital one day. Abwe, the father, had to go and apply for his Social Security card. And so they needed somebody to step in and be like the power of medical, person. And so that was me. And I was waiting for the doctor to come, and the doctor walked in, and Mwavita at that point, honestly, it was an extremely difficult situation for me to be in, to see a child in such just significant pain, and not be able to communicate with her. So I just began singing to her. I began praying. It was just for me, it was a very, very difficult moment.
Yeah.
But the doctor walked in, and he looked at Mwavita, and I kind of briefly said, she's just come from a refugee camp in Tanzania. She's really sick. And he said, I know. We would deem her dead, basically, at this point. He said, I know she is sick. And he said, Lauren, because she is here, she will live. And at that moment, refugee resettlement was not just life-changing. It does change people's lives, but it was literally life-saving and life-giving. Had she been in a camp any longer, she would have died.
Yeah.
She would have died.
Yeah.
But because of the great medical care that she received at Northwest, at Children's Hospital here in Northwest Arkansas, and because of Dr. Sailors, she is now a thriving 13-year-old who has a little bit of sass, loves to dance.
I love a girl with sass.
I know. I just saw her dance this past weekend at a celebration that we had. And I was talking with our director, Emily, and I just said, we both just looked at each other and said, can you believe that this is the same child a year ago that we saw in a hospital bed about to, on her deathbed?
Yeah.
Her face was like, her skin was different. Like she was up and she was active and she was dancing and she was loving life. And that's what we get to do through refugee resettlement.
I love it. I hear your passion and I see your joy, and it has been such a joy to partner with you. And we still have some more time on this, so I'm asking to come in and donate and to wrap around this. But Lauren, I have to tell you that the very first time that I met you personally, um, I started praying for you then, and I'll tell you why. Because I know that in your job, there's the good and there is also the hard. So I want to end this conversation just briefly. If you could share the best thing about your job and the hardest thing about your job. And I want those who are listening today to not only donate and to not only wrap around the refugees in your own city, as well as wrapping around this project and this ministry, but I want you to pray for Lauren and Emily and the rest of the team at Canopy NWA, because they're in the trenches. They're absolutely in the trenches, the highways, the byways, the hedges, the places that we were called and compelled to go. So what is, briefly, the best thing about your job and what is the hardest?
I think the best thing about my job is community. Like, I have seen the Northwest Arkansas community come around our families, and it's not just people of one faith, of one thinking. It is like we are a hodgepodge of people who want to just love others.
Yeah.
And I get to facilitate that. And that brings me so much joy. I see God working in such amazing places.
Yeah.
And I get to see restoration of not just our families, but honestly, when people come together and do this, there is restoration on many levels.
Yes.
And there are friendships that are formed and relationships that are formed. And that brings me such life. I think God has created us for community. And I get to experience that in so many different ways every day. So I would say that is one of my favorite things about my job, is watch people come and love each other.
Yeah.
And then the hardest thing, I think that there is such misunderstanding around refugee resettlement and what it means and how they get here. And it can be extremely discouraging when I talk to people of faith, especially, that it is, it can be discouraging. I think God has called us to love Him and love others. And it doesn't mean that we get to pick and choose who we love. We have to love everybody. And we have to be faithful to that calling.
Yeah.
And it can be a little bit discouraging when people don't see that vision, or don't understand that.
Yeah.
But by far the good outweighs the bad.
Yeah.
And resources are tight too. Refugee reset, we get very, very, very little funding from the government. It's only 1/3 of our budget.
Yeah.
So to try to help these people rebuild their lives and fix and help them restore the whole person, not just their soul, but their bodies as well, that have been worn down over time, that requires resources, and that is tough.
Yeah.
So that would be, I guess, if I could say 2 areas, that would be 2 areas.
Yeah.
So
thank you for your honesty in that, because I feel like that we have not only the opportunity to give to this compassion project, but there's an opportunity for you to partner monthly with them, and every amount matters. It makes a difference. So if you feel compelled to partner with Canopy NWA for through monthly support, and you feel that tug on your heart, say yes, yes, yes to that. So Lauren, thank you for giving this. I feel like that in just this short amount of time, you've shown us the heartbeat of what you do and what we get to do to partner with you. And I also feel like that there will be some people who will be listening to this today and say, oh, now I get it. Because we don't know what we don't know until the light is flashed on, and all of a sudden we see it in a whole new way. And that's my prayer for this. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for what you do. And thank you for allowing me to partner with you and all of these Living Free Together friends and
absolutely.
To support you in a very small way. We're so grateful.
Well, we're honored, and if anybody has questions, man, that's my job, is to answer questions. So no question is too big for me.
Yeah,
I'm happy to talk to people if
awesome.
they want to know more, if they just want to know, hey, how did they actually get here?
Yes.
I got answers, and I'm happy.
She has answers. I love it. And I'll put some links so that you can find her, that you can find Canopy, that you can find the project, and you can find out more information. So I'm Susie Eller. This is Lauren Snodgrass with Canopy NWA, and I'm probably completely, it's NWA to me. Northwest Arkansas is what it stands for. Loving people in tangible ways. So thanks for joining us today.